So today's episode, we're going to be talking about a very broad spectrum of codependency and going deep into the nitty-gritty of what it is. It's often a very bypassed phenomenon, and it's something worth talking about, especially in spiritual fields where everyone seems to have their shit together, but actually we're all having human experiences. And this is an attempt, at least, to be as zealous as possible in not spiritually bypassing, but embracing all aspects and facing our own humanity and the shadow. And today we'll be joined again by the wonderful Vera, Ingeborg Vera. She has many surnames, but she's an absolute lighthouse in the world and in the spiritual field. And she's written many books and articles about just the whole spiritual journey. And one article in particular that stands out is about the codependency loop and how that plays out in human dynamics. So without further ado, I shall be bringing on dear Vera. So thanks for tuning in. So here we are. We have Vera again joining us for the second time on this show, and it feels like yesterday we were speaking again about the new earth and the new dream that is emerging now and continues to emerge as old narratives are dropping off and new beautiful narratives are emerging. So Vera, today I wanted to talk about, as I was saying in the introduction, about codependency, and specifically the so-called codependency loop that you once wrote about in your article, and what exactly that is. And to start with, I wanted to ask, how would you define codependency, and what is this loop that we tend to find ourselves in, like a wheel of samsara?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks, Jesse, for having me again and for inviting me again. It's a great pleasure to be here, and it's in general always nice to compare notes with you and to exchange. And like you already mentioned in the introduction, it's a crucial time on planet Earth, and so many things are happening, and a bigger part of the collective starts feeling something's odd, and basically the old paradigm starts to break down. That's what we can see now. And the old paradigm was created based on codependencies. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that was the game we were playing, was a codependent game, and its root cause, and that is the answer to your first question, what is codependency? It really goes back to the inner split that we came in with, that we were basically born with and then programmed with. Is this idea of we are separate from each other, but also separate from God. And the separateness comes from an energetic split that we all come in with, which is our personal setup between feminine and masculine energy. So this has nothing to do with gender. This has to do with our configuration, our setup, how our personal, let's call it avatar, our body, is reading energy and information and acts respectively in the world. But we all came in with a split setup. So we all have like an unequal percentage of feminine and masculine energy. And there's actually two levels that we need to understand of feminine and masculine. So we do have the more cosmic part, or the more spiritual part, you could say, of feminine and masculine energy, with it, which is more in the ethers. It's not as manifest, it's not as physical. And that part, that's the first part of the process of the overall creation. That part deals with, first of all, the feminine energy is basically the sea of possibilities. So the ability of seeing all the possible options in that sea of possibilities, seeing, oh, this is one way, but there's so many different other ways. That's the feminine. It's basically, when we talk quantum physics, quantum mechanics, the string theory, it means before the proton forms, before it becomes something. It's like, as long as nothing is observed, nothing happens. It's just this sea of possibilities.
Yeah.
The masculine on that cosmic level, metaphysical level, spiritual level, is when it starts observing something. It starts focusing on something, and then it becomes something. So instead of spraying everywhere the quantum field, the energy is focused on something, and it becomes a thought form that wasn't there before. So when we look into the characteristics, when we just see different types of people, we can see everyone is different set up on that level already. Some people have a much easier way of seeing the big picture and seeing, you know, like wide and far, and having all these different ideas and possibilities, while other people are very much focused just on one way. And they are not even able to see there could be very many different other solutions. They're just focused on one way. But both of them, without each other, they're incomplete, because you need both for the first part of creation. That is where the first codependency forms in our current world, because we need other people with the polar opposite setup that complete us. That's the first level. It's the more mental and, you know, conscious level. The second part that is important is when this thought form becomes a thought form, we want to create that. We don't want to just have it as a form, or as a thought form, as a vision. We do want to do something with that thought form. Also depends what frequency level we are on, whether we're creating from fear or whether we're creating from love. That's a whole different game. But the world as we know it is from fear. We're creating from fear. So we're staying in that polar opposite setup already. And then the next part of the co-creative cycle is creativity. It means the seed is planted, and then it just needs time to germinate. It's when things happen on its own accord, where we don't have any control over. And that's something we as humans mostly do not like very much. We want to get things done, and we want to get them done fast.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this part is really the, like, when you look into nature, everywhere you have that phase of just growth where you don't have to do anything, whether that is you, when, you know, the sperm was reunited with the ovula, and then it just grows on its own accord. It already knows what it needs to become, but it just needs that cycle of 9 months until you are ready to be born into this world. And you see that in nature everywhere. Everything needs time to germinate and grow. Something we have forgotten as humans mostly. So we want to get it done right away. It's a step we love to skip, but there are a lot of people who actually enjoy that phase where they can just be creative, and they can, you know, like just do their things, and they never finish anything. It's just this staying in this field of, oh, this could be nice, or that could be nice. Let's play here a little bit more, but it's this not ending it either. And the last part of the creative process is the action, getting it done, getting it born. So this is, and then it starts again, you know, then it breaks up again into chaos at some point, and you start the game from the beginning on the cosmic level, and the thought form comes down. So in itself, this is an amazing process, and it works by itself. But the specific setup that we have created energetically is we always need our polar opposite to get things done.
Right.
And And you can see that easily in relationships, how relationships form. And that when you really look into it, you always have the polar opposites of these 4 different energy types: the spiritual feminine and masculine, and the earthly feminine and masculine. They're always polar opposite. And this gives a lot of possibilities because we have these 4. So the mix can be different and the percentage can be different, but you will always match up with people. You're going to create the necessary friction, the necessary magnetism to be drawn to each other, which is not what mostly people call the law of attraction. That would be the real law of attraction, because it's about magnetism and not about synchronicity, because the law of attraction talks about synchronicity, not about magnetism. Like alike attracts alike, which is actually a different part. That's the wavelength of how we match. So what you can also see in those codependencies, the fear pattern that they share is always the same. The manifestation of how they deal with the fear is different. But you can always find that common ground in the codependency. And also when you are in a conflict, even a conflict is codependent, because you need in that moment, you only create the contact because you want that energy of the other person that you feel you're not able to create for yourself. So in that moment, you do anything to just get some attention, even if it hurts, but at least you get your fix, your energetic fix, to be, oh, okay, I was right. And this is the game we play, is these incomplete parts that we have, and it's much easier. We have learned to seek for those parts outside of us, to seek for the perfect partner, the perfect match, the perfect business partner, the perfect whatever, the perfect group, the tribe I can belong to. It's all these, like the fear pattern is the same. So we synchronize on that same wave pattern of that fear, but we're always in polar opposites. And that's what makes this force field so strong. The polarities are so strong. And what you see now in the world is those polarities are becoming much stronger. It's basically, we have lost the middle line of where we used to compromise. The line of compromise is gone. So now what everyone does is they need to play out their final game of codependency. And the solution is never in changing the other or changing the world, changing the government, whatever. The solution is always, I need to change me. I need to change my perspective. So the invitation is to go inside. First of all, what really helped me in that whole project is to see the fear is the same. I have something in common with everyone, because we do share the same fear in that moment. And when I can see the common ground, when I can see that inner child that is hurt and that is struggling and just wants to save the comfort zone and save him or herself, you can already develop a different sense of compassion. Doesn't mean you need to think it's right what the person is doing or it's good what the person is doing. But with this, you already have an opening of, okay, but I can understand why we're matching, why this person is in my field, or why the whole situation, the world situation, is triggering me so much. Because I'm aligning with this. So it's in me what resonates outside. And I am creating this, and I keep recreating it if I don't see that I need to look into the mirror. I need to see in my personal energetic setup, where do I have my insufficiencies? Where do I need to train my personal energetic muscles? So if I'm much more feminine, I need structure in my life. Of course, the easy part is, let's say a narcissist and an empath, they're always the perfect match. A narcissist offers an empath the structure they don't feel they can create for themselves. The person that organizes life, the person that tells them what to do, the person that just gives them a certain sort of structure they can move in. Because again, if there's no structure, nothing can manifest. It's always like that. We need always some sort of structure or geometry so that energy can flow in it. then there's another question whether it's a linear structure or an organic structure. That also like is a difference between the different paradigms. The linear paradigm, where you mentioned time, that you wanted to talk about maybe later, or the organic paradigm that doesn't run on time. The importance there is to understand these matches are never coincidence. They're always a perfect setup energetically to give you the chance to learn something, not only about yourself, but to learn that you are indeed able to create that what you are missing for yourself. But in order to do so, you need to face those fear patterns that you share. You need to step into those fears where you think, oh my God, I can't live without this person, I'm lost, whatever that is, or I can't live without this job, I can't live without this insurance. Those are all codependencies that we have with the system. So we need to learn we can do it alone. And the only way we learn it is by experience, not by thinking it. We need to viscerally experience, oh my God, I stepped into this fear and it's not so bad. I can actually do this.
I can do it, yeah.
But we need to train it and untrain. So it's really like coming into much more alignment within ourselves between masculine and feminine. It's not 50-50, it never will be. But if you have a 90-10, you're 90% empath and 10% masculine, yeah, 90% feminine, your house will look like a mess if you don't have someone else who brings structure, as an example. Okay. So it's really this learning of how can I train myself to be more focused. If I know, oh, I'm more feminine in my nature, I'm jumping from thought to thought, I can never stay longer than like 5 seconds with one thing, and then I already forgot about it and I go somewhere else. How do I train myself to be more focused? And that part is the mental part. Yeah, a lot of there's a lot of femininity in the spirituality, but you have all these, let's call them messy goddesses that just have no structure in their whole life, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's just at some point you need to realize there's something missing in me if I do want to manifest a different reality. I need the mental part in it. I cannot skip it. I can't just wait for the universe to serve me. That's not the point. So that is really one part where we can just practice to focus, to become more empty, to be more aware, to do things with presence. Presence, the being in the now, it's a very masculine trait. It has nothing to do with just floating around. It means being right here, right now with what is. And it can be as simple as something like doing the dishes and do them with your full presence and with your full love and attention. And training yourself, like with the car keys. It's very often that people with a lot of feminine energy, they're not able to remember where they put their car keys. It's these simple daily things where you can observe yourself, what type am I? And how can I train myself to be more present, to when I put the car key down, not being already 5 steps ahead in the house, what else I need to do. Like really like the diffusion of the energy, but really stay present with the key. I put it here and I'm training myself. This is the spot for the car key.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy. It sounds like for someone with a lot of masculine sounds like, okay, what is she talking about? Because for the other way around, for the one that has too much structure, that's more who I was. I was like, everything needed to be in order. And I was like so pedantic with things that I couldn't see. I can just, allow a little bit of chaos into my life because that's creative. That opens new doors for me.
Yeah.
So it's also the other way around, is when am I too stuck in my patterns and in my structure, and I'm not allowing other ideas, other concepts to come in that maybe inspire something I didn't see before. So that's a part where we can really start training ourselves.
Yes.
The second thing is, that's the more earthly part. It's the same thing. It's just like the actual physical being and doing, the masculine and the feminine, and they need to play together, because just being or just doing will not do the job. I can overdo things and will never get to anything, or I can just be and be and be and wait that something finally will happen. That's not going to do it either. We need to learn to have both. So for me, it was learning, leaving a lot more space for things to evolve. That's practicing patience and knowing I don't need to try to make things happen. I can allow them time to evolve, and I'm only going to take action when it really feels like the right thing to do in that moment, from the heart, not from the fear pattern, but from the heart. Now I know it's time to take the next step. And that again requires inner presence with myself, listening to my intuition and training that intuition. And we train the intuition by being, instead of going into the next action already. But I need to do something about this. It's like, okay, breathe again, calm down, be. For people who are very used to just being, for them it's really practicing little things like, okay, I'm gonna take the garbage out today, right here, right now. Yeah, it's these little things, they sound so stupid, but with the little things in daily life, you can learn so much about yourself and about your setup and what you are missing in life and what you are trying to fulfill through a partner instead of learning it yourself. And that is the necessary step into independence first. We need to learn to be independent. We need to learn we can do it alone. We have that ability. We don't need a partner. We don't need the system, including insurance, job, whatever securities we have, not out of fear, letting them go out of fear. It doesn't mean I have to quit my job. It just means I quit to be dependent on it. I know I could do something else.
Yeah.
I can detach from it. I know I will be okay. And something else will open up for me if I allow it. I'm not too stuck with the old. And the second part is what you already mentioned in the beginning, is that we need the independence, to be independent first, to prepare to be interdependent. We cannot skip that step. You cannot explain to someone who's codependent to be interdependent.
Yeah.
Because we need to learn first to break free. We need the breakdown, we need the breakthrough, we need to feel free first, what freedom feels like, before we can start sharing in this new way.
Yeah.
If you have, and you have that a lot when you look into communities that are forming right now. And they all start with, like, oh my God, we can do this. But it's codependent people who have never learned to be independent, trying then to fulfill another codependency.
Exactly.
Because they don't want to do it alone.
It's very multi-layered, isn't it?
It's all normal and it's part of the learning process. Yeah, but we need these learning, and we learned it the hard way too when we left Amsterdam and we went to Brazil, and then in the US our whole tour was basically just about learning how it doesn't work. To finally understand what works. And there is no easy way for that transition, because it's really a transformation of each individual, an unlearning of old patterns, facing our fears every day, stepping into the fear, out of the comfort zone, training our energetic muscles so we can come into more balance within ourselves. Learning we can do this on our own, which doesn't mean we're going to continue to be alone, but it's such an important step to feel, I can do this. I can take care of myself. I can structure my life. I can be open to new things. I can have patience that the right things are evolving over time. And I can trust my intuition when it says, now go, then it's time to go and take action. Yeah. And it's a learning process. It's an unlearning and a remembering and learning of how to do things differently.
Yeah.
And when we're there, that's when we can start to amplify each other. And that's the new way of interdependence, where we can do it. We all know we can do it alone, but we all know together we can be so much more. So it's no longer that linear codependency that we know that, like it's always a win-lose kind of situation. that it feels like, that always someone is much better off than the other one. The new is really win-win every day because it amplifies everyone. Also because we have no longer the ego patterns of survival in that new paradigm, but we just know we are one. We are all part of one organism. And when I start sharing my talent and my gift, my individual strength and purpose that I bring in, automatically everyone will profit from it. Everyone will benefit from it.
Yes.
That's how we're gonna start.
That's really beautiful. And that reminds me of I think it was Marianne Williamson who wrote well, I'm paraphrasing, but you shrinking and pretending to be less than you are, and in order to make others feel comfortable, is you're not doing yourself or others a service by doing that, because you are a child of God. So therefore, you shine the light and magnify His glory by being yourself and not holding back or trying to hide or cover what you inherently are, in order to seek approval, or in order to seek acceptance, because all of that approval seeking and acceptance seeking is, as you said, survival mechanism.
Right.
It's that fear of rejection, which is the fear of abandonment and being alone, and essentially an outcast. You're not belonging. I don't belong here in this world. What am I doing here? What's the point? And then you go in the downward spiral, and you begin to question existence, and then you become atheistic, and and it goes.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a very natural process, actually, of this developing. Like, really, we've been enveloped in all these beliefs and we develop over time, but it's a roller coaster ride, because we're facing all of our darkest and most basic fears in that process. And now we're in a time where it becomes amplified and it becomes, catalyzed, because that middle line is gone. So there's no more hiding away from ourselves, whether we like it or not. You can look anywhere right now in any of the conflicts. It doesn't matter if it's political, if it's business, if it's personal, if it's relationships. It doesn't matter where you look at, the middle line is gone. There is no more compromising with your own essence possible. And we all need to learn now, how do we deal with this then, when we can no longer compromise on ourselves? How do we solve all these conflicts? And people will get to the point where they are so exhausted that they will surrender, and they're forced to look inside. When the fighting is just too much, and you see there is no result, and the world is not changing because somebody else is solving it for you. And we had that first big peak moment of this, and it's funny how long these narratives continue. We had that first big peak moment in January, when everyone was hoping, oh, Trump is going to be the surprise and is going to be reelected, and then everything will be the golden age and we don't have to do anything for it. That's great. That's not how it works. That these narratives are there to disappoint you. Because you need to be disappointed again and again, up to the point where you realize, oh, I'm making myself codependent again, this time on Trump and his team. Or on Biden. Doesn't matter which side you're on. It really doesn't matter. But it's there to disappoint you up to a point where you realize nobody's gonna solve this but me. It's all in me. But in order to get there, you need to be disappointed many times, and you need to recreate those codependency loops many times until you realize, oh, I'm still in the same pattern. It's every time that the actor shifts, the situation shifts, but it's always the same pattern. It's the same disappointment. It's the same, nothing ever changes. And at some point you come to the point where you realize, oh, maybe it's in me. Maybe I'm the creator after all.
Yeah.
But the moment, as much as it hurts when you realize I'm hurting myself all the time, I'm doing this to myself. The rest is just actors that are reading their script for me. Yeah, because that's what I'm energetically asking for. The moment I realize I am creating this, first of all, I can change it by training myself in my energetic setup, in my muscles. But I'm also realizing, wow, I can create amazing things when I work through my fears, when I change my frequency, when I'm becoming this empowered being that is in balance and I don't need anyone from outside to fulfill something I feel I can't do. At the same time, we need to keep our spiritual ego in check to not go into the next round of arrogance and saying, oh, I got it all figured out and now I know how the world works and now I'm going to be the teacher for everyone who's just a sheeple there and has no clue. That's another ego trap we just need to be aware of, that it's always, again, coming back to being humble, coming back to self-observation, what's happening within me. And the gene key of this week, I don't know if you follow the gene keys at all.
No.
It's a very interesting tool to understand ourselves better.
Is that Richard?
The gene key of this week is actually dishonesty. That's Richard Rudd, yeah. And dishonesty is mainly it's the shadow of this week. So transit, like in astrology, there's transits, they're based on astrology, the gene keys. And dishonesty is the shadow that plays out in the collective at the moment, very much. And dishonesty doesn't necessarily mean we're conscious about our dishonesty. It really means like learning to be so radically honest with ourselves.
Yes.
We don't even have to talk about it, but the first step is to really become that observer of what's happening. Where am I not feeling good? Where am I not feeling in balance? Where's the trigger?
Yeah.
It is that friction we need to feel, and we need to be honest and not push it away and say, no, that's this one's fault, or that's, the government, or that's whatever situation. But really, it's in me. There's something that triggers me that I don't want to see. And start exploring that feeling instead of shutting it down and ignoring it.
Yeah.
Because there is a point that we reach where even physically all these patterns are gone. And your body has no longer any option to even read the pattern because it's gone. So I cannot synchronize anymore with the old narratives. Yes, they're there. I can still see the narratives playing out. They don't do anything with me. But they did for a long time.
Yes, exactly.
They did. Yeah, that's the whole game. That's our empowerment game we're playing. That's the quest we're playing to become that absolute self first before we can start creating a new paradigm. And the new paradigm is not meant to be built like the old paradigm with one leader on top or two leaders telling everyone this is what you need to do. That's codependency. The new is an augmented co-creation where everyone who joins into the creative process will make a change, will make a difference. And it's all created from the now moment. There's no longer a future plan or outcome of this is how it's looking, that's supposed to look like this. And we're going to get there from here to there doing this. That's no longer like it. It's just like a tree or like a human being grows. It already knows what it's supposed to become without us knowing right now what we're going to become. But the trust of the DNA already knows how we're going to play together, what we're going to do together. The only thing that's in the way is our belief system. And that's the part that we need to tackle. And nobody else is going to do it for us. There is no method, there is no medicine, there is no healing, there is nothing from the outside that can do that for you. Yeah, and that sucks to the ego because it would be so nice if you could just have a med bed, for example, you can lie on and then everything is healed and perfect and you're a new human. That's not the game. The game is to crash through these old parts of the DNA that we all have inside of us. And we can only crash those proteins. They're literally proteins that we are restructuring. And the codon rings are changing. And we can only do that by inviting those triggers in that we feel are so uncomfortable. And by stepping into those fears that seem unsuperable for us. It's the only way we can actively change our DNA.
Yeah.
Nothing else can.
So literally just instead of numbing it out through, substances or whatever people do to kind of
escape it.
Yeah, basically to dissociate or go, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to bury my head in the sand, I'm going to go and be transcendental, or I'm just going to drink a lot of beer, or,
whatever coping mechanism people have.
So it's about being okay with what you're feeling and not trying to fix or change that, and just because when you're willing to feel deeply enough, eventually that will plateau and then transmute. Is that right?
Right, that's right. And it's not done with just one transmutation. It's a continual process, and it intensifies. The more you dare, the bigger the triggers will become until it's all gone. And also that is natural. And it's really what you can see so much is exactly this escapism, because nobody wants to deal with the pain, because we have learned that pain is something bad and it makes you ill. It defines you as an ill person when you have pain. But what pain actually is a magnificent tool of showing you exactly where to look. It's basically just saying, hey, over here, this is where we need to look now. And when you start learning to read your body and to read your body functions and why certain parts are out of balance, understanding the metaphysical connection to emotion when you have a physical illness and what does that represent, the more you start understanding the language of pain and what it actually wants to tell you, when you allow the emotional part, that is basically our body is like a carrier of zip files of unresolved emotional situations, conflicts, and trauma that we just store away so we don't have to deal with this. But this is where our whole body imbalance comes from. And it gets worse over time, of course, the more we store and the more we do not process. And processing emotions means using our natural tool of processing emotions, which is crying and screaming. That's how we process emotion. But there is a shame pattern that taught us that's not okay. So we keep stuck in the loop because we're not daring to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
That's one of the most important transformational keys we have. That's the alchemy happening, is processing emotions in a constructive way, not to blame or to judge or to project it on anyone, but just to allow the pain to surface and transmute it and actually be grateful for that release, that we no longer have to carry this. The moment we start taking responsibility for all these zip files we have stored, and we start to take a look at them, and we start to process them in a constructive way, we become lighter and lighter and lighter. But that means we need to step into that shame pattern. And in the beginning, that means we're just going to be locked up at home and we're going to practice this on our own. It's part of the whole process of becoming independent, is to understand we need to do this. There's no way around it. We cannot delete these files without looking at them.
Yeah, it just feels that, for many people, including myself, there's been this this higher authority, be it in parents or the school system, that when you express these emotions via crying or weeping or screaming, that was like slammed down, basically.
Yes, exactly.
And it kind of feels like a soul rape, basically. And when that keeps happening, it's like, no, that's not okay. you learn to become kind of frozen over and realize that emotions are
Right.
really not okay because you're inconveniencing other people. So the question now is, how do we find and secure these uh, safe environments or safe containers where we actually can
Yeah.
release what is no longer needed? You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, you
Right.
just go
Yeah.
on go on a retreat or something," but that works to an extent. But there are, you know, other options.
Yeah.
And what would you recommend?
Right. Well, first of all, we need also to not fall back into codependency. We also need to learn to create that safe space for ourselves as well, and to dare to find people in our environment we want to practice that with, to start sharing vulnerably what emotions or what, you know, trauma we have experienced that we're struggling with, or in a situation, instead of blaming, to just like, instead of reacting, we all have our reactive patterns, to just go back and breathe and respond instead. And responding means feeling within what's happening with me when this is happening, when I get triggered. Of course, the ideal situation, and I mean, that's what we've been developing here in Spain together, is a concept called hospitia, which is a go-to place in the old world where people can come and go, and there's no retreat concept. But it's really just people who are going through the same experience. There's people who have already gone through the experience who can provide that safe space, and also remind people if they drift off to, hey, that's not how we deal with this. And, you know, have a common ground and understanding of how do we do things here, which is absolutely different to what we have learned in school and from our parents. So of course that concept is ideal, but we also know in order to create those spaces, we do need some resources first to actually put this up, or it's going to evolve over time. And actually what's happening here is kind of like a mini hospitia right now, with just 4 people, where we started sharing like this and holding the space, and everyone is contributing. We don't pay rent here, and it's just a sharing, an unconditional sharing of everyone brings to the table what they can offer. That's the interdependent way of doing things. At the same time, we cannot take people who are still in codependency and just put them there. Then we're going to have the same type of community again that is already, you know, like happening everywhere, where they mostly fail in their endeavors because they realize the human gets in the way. So it needs to be some sort of organic process. At the same time, I can see what's happening with all of us here by having that safe space together, how quickly we make progress, which is a part we wouldn't be able to do alone. So at some point in your journey, you hit the point where you realize, I've had all the triggers I needed for my own journey, but now I need the group triggers, the community triggers, to progress further. I don't have a solution for this. I know we have a clear idea. It's all on paper, how this is going to look like, how this is going to work. But I can't say how this is going to come into form.
Yeah.
Because many times before, we tried to set up things prematurely because we didn't have the patience to let things evolve. It's again the process of creation. And by the way, if somebody's interested in the process of creation, I've mapped it out. It's on the FF Movement website. So anyone who's interested can download it there. It's for free. So that is something maybe also to dive deeper into that topic. But yeah, so we have like basically the blueprint, not only for this, but also for the new paradigm. It's all there. But we also know we cannot carry people over from codependency into interdependency. There needs to be that step in between. And we've tried it before to mix these two, and it just doesn't work.
Yes.
It's nothing you can teach, because it's a process of unlearning. So you don't want to teach anything. You actually just want to, you can only be the mirror for people so that they can go through their own process.
Yes.
That's all we can do.
It's kind of like leading by example, without telling people what to do. It's
right.
it's walking the walk instead
Yeah.
of merely
right.
talking it. You know, if someone sees someone
Exactly.
do something extraordinary, like it's like, oh well, he can do it, because the former paradigm was, oh, he can do it, therefore he's our savior and he's going to save us.
Yeah.
But now
right.
it's like, oh, he or she's doing it, and for fuck's sake, I can do it as well. You know, if he can do it, then why the
right.
fuck can I? You know.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it
and
was
that's the only
whole,
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that also requires a shift. And I mean, I've experienced that shift too. When I started to understand how all of this works, I worked as a teacher and I worked as a coach, and realizing, no, that's actually not helping. Because just to share what worked for me doesn't mean it works for someone else. You can, the only thing you can do is support a person by being there without any judgment, by creating that safe space, and by asking questions so that people can find their own answers. Sometimes they just don't know how to ask the right questions. But it's even that is not necessary. It can be a support process, but even then, the most important part is to bring people into the space where they feel safe, where they can start opening up, and by truly becoming honest with themselves. And first is the honesty within before we start to dare to really be honest with the world. And to be honest with the world means to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
To share what's going on, to share the insecurities. That's something we have learned as a weakness. It's not, it's strength.
Yes, it is.
That's the alchemy that happens when you step into those fears. Every single time when you tackle a shame pattern or a guilt pattern, you step into it and you say, okay, this time I'm daring myself. That's where the alchemy takes place. And of course, you're going to get nervous and you're going to shake. And you're probably going to have some emotional release when you do it. But that's exactly what you want. That's liberating yourself from those files, those files stored everywhere. It's basically everything is upside down from what we have learned to be true. And it's pulled us further and further away from ourselves. And the whole first part of the journey is coming back into our own self.
Yeah.
Finding the balance within. And then from that 0 point that often is talked about, when we have that inner balance, that inner peace, there's nothing in the old world that still can have a hook on us, can still pull us back. The gravity is gone of the old world. That's when we can start creating the new. Not before. And it's difficult because we have those visions. We all come with those visions. And a lot more people have them, but many do not share them because they're afraid. It's again a shame pattern of maybe I'm not normal. Maybe something's wrong with me because everyone else seems to enjoy life or like the game. But it's really like knowing the vision is the vision. But in order to get there is not to skip my own personal process. I can't build it in the old way. I need to travel that black hole that comes when I hit that 0 point. That's when I can truly start to open that new dimension for me. And I cannot skip it. There's no bridge I can build. It's impossible to, ignore the river that I need to swim. And we can also not do it for other people. And that's that savior pattern that we often have. I had that too when I worked as a coach. I tried to pull people over. I tried to save them. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
The only one who gets exhausted is you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the way I see God or source is that he would want you to be strong and independent and do it yourself, first.
Yeah.
He's like, look, I made you in my image, so obviously you can do it too. We're all, this might sound very Christian, but we're all children of God, and therefore we're invested with his qualities and power. So
Yeah.
if we can't stand up and do it ourselves, then we're kind of denying our own divinity, in a sense.
And we're like, what happens a lot is we're denying our own creation as part of the whole, as part of source. We have created the world as it is today all together. It's in each and every one of us, and it has to do with the whole setup of codependency and fear, the way we wanted to experience reality, to learn from it and to grow from it. And it's a game. But at the same time, it helps us to evolve, and it helps us to experience physicality.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's a never-ending game, but it doesn't mean it has to follow the same laws that the new game will have. And of course, it's also a game. Yeah. In the end, God itself is untouchable. It's infinite consciousness. It's all, but at the same time, there's a reason why we decided to split up in all to these different rays of the same source and experience life the way we experience it right now. But the moment we reclaim our creator power, the moment we stop blaming and judging and looking for solutions outside, the moment we realize I am the creator of my own reality, that's when it starts to be fun.
Yes.
And vulnerability is the key, because we don't create with thoughts, we create with feelings. The feelings is what we send out in energetic vibration. The heart is what speaks. Yeah, so way too often we try to figure it all out here, and we totally forget about this powerful thing we carry around every day. But they need to play together.
Yes.
If I only have this without any thoughts, nothing can clearly manifest. Then it's always just a vague feeling. So it's really understanding, again, it's that inner balance of, I don't need to get rid of my mind, which a lot of teachings tell you to do, to just still the mind and ignore the mind and whatever. That's not it either. It's just finding that calm space so that the true thought forms can come through. Yeah, the inspiration can come through. Like, from the heart, it's just a feeling, but the mind makes it into amazing forms, thought forms. And the physical body is there to manifest it into physical reality. So it doesn't matter if we ignore the heart, if we ignore the body, or if we ignore the mind. As long as we ignore something, we cannot form the Trinity. It all plays together. And that third force, that creative third force, comes from the reunion of the masculine and feminine within us. That's when we start creating that third creative force that we apply through our physical existence. And it's a bit like being Harry Potter. You're just failing many times before you get the spell right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and often the outcome is not what you would like it to be, but it's always perfect because it shows you where you are.
Yes. In terms of one more thing I wanted to touch upon was how essentially codependency is very multi-layered, and how it can manifest as religious or spiritual codependency. And
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because it's very, I find that very tricky in that you think you've gotten rid of all your other, sort of material codependencies, but then
Yeah.
there's a manifestation of more subtle, codependencies.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? How can people be more aware of that?
Well, in the end, codependency is always shown by an attachment. Always. You have an attachment either to a thing, it can be your house, it can be a partner, it can be a job, but it can also be a narrative, it can be a belief system, it can be a certain method because it works for you. So that is what everyone needs to know now. That is how everyone needs to act now. And then it becomes another dogma. Through the attachment, it becomes another form of religion or spirituality. It's another exclusive thought form of this way or no way, because it worked for me and I know how to do it. So it's really also, and that's again, it's the openness to all possibilities. So you can see with most of the gurus who are doing this my way or no way thing, they have a lot of narcissistic energy in terms of being very focused and very concentrated on their solution and their method.
Yeah.
And they cannot allow and see all the different ways that also lead home.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's different for everyone. Our setup is unique. I mean, we can even generalize, what I did with the energy setup, that's still very generalized. When you look into the gene keys, how each of our DNA differs in its setup, there's no way that everyone works the same way and that one method works for everyone. That was never the point. The point is that we find our own toolkit that works for us without becoming dependent and attached to the tool, and let go of the tool when we no longer need it. It's like breathing in and breathing out. Of course, we need our tools to learn walking. But it's also a point of time where we realize we've outgrown the tool and we can let it go now. And then we maybe find a new tool, or we see, we no longer need those tools because we just intuitively do what needs to be done.
Yes.
But it all comes back to always being radically honest with ourselves. Am I still attached to something or someone? When I look into my attachments, I will find the fears of loss. What am I afraid to lose? And that's the codependency. So I need to deal with that fear of loss. How do I address that? Is to each individual. Like, it's an individual process. My process was I actually needed to step into the fear by losing everything. That was my way. I needed to learn the hard way. You have lost everything and you're still okay. You still have a roof over your head. You still have a shower. You still have food every day. Yeah, but it's actually impossible to the mind that that's possible.
Yes, exactly.
But I needed to learn the hard way that I needed to detach from everything materialistic. I never had it so much with relationships. I was always like not having the trouble with people, but I did have it with material possessions. The dependency and codependency, materialism, much more than in my relationships. For other people that have lots of money, it often is the relationship part or health where they completely get stuck. We all have our different setups also in terms of how the narratives individually play out for us.
Yes.
Yeah, what kind of narrative we have running for ourselves. But there's never a complete person to begin with in the old game. That was not the point. The point was to learn, to find our way back to the holy grail that's within us. And codependencies show themselves very clearly when I start looking into my attachments.
Yes.
It can be a thing like a car. Am I attached to the car and to the mobility that brings me this tool?
Even on a very mundane level, even if, well, many people are like, including myself, I can't really function or really face the day unless I have a cup of coffee and when I wake up.
Codependency with coffee.
Yeah. So,
And it's really, when you start observing yourself and your attachments, your routines, there's nothing wrong with routine as long as you can let them go immediately when something changes.
yeah.
Nothing wrong with it, because a routine is nothing bad at all, and especially for people who have that missing part of structure, a routine can be very helpful to create some structure for themselves.
Yeah.
But it's always the question, am I attached, or can I let go of it in an instant if I need to?
Yes.
And I remember Eckhart Tolle already talking about that in The Power of Now, that people, spiritual people that have gone through that evolution, they can still have, they can still be rich, they can have a big house, they can have a big car, whatever. The difference is they're not attached to it. But we cannot just go from A to B. There needs to be that moment of loss in between, that moment of huge detachment, before we can actually enjoy those things without being attached to them or without having to own them as a security, but to just really enjoy them.
Absolutely. Just being grateful that it's here and then enjoying it.
And when it's gone tomorrow, okay, something else will happen. A new adventure.
Because the universe,
it's really this learning. Yeah.
The universe abhors a vacuum. There's always something there, There's
always something there. And the moment we're starting to remember we're already part of that superorganism that goes beyond just us humans. It's everything is designed to be a superorganism. And when you look into nature, look at the birds or animals in the wild, they know they're provided for always. They're not questioning it. They know the food is always there. They know their shelter is there. Their intuition is intact. Their connection with everything is there. They don't question that circle of life. We humans have separated ourselves from that whole cycle, and it's just here, that separation. We are still running with those cycles. And the moment we let go of the belief systems of we're not safe, we're not secure, we're not taken care of, we will start realizing more and more, oh, the organism always takes care of me. And that's when we talk about magic, because the mind cannot grasp that concept of how is it possible that this person is not homeless and, is like not sleeping on the street. That's like our nightmare for everyone. How is it possible that this person is actually still having fun and smiling and living the adventure of her life? I don't know how many people told me when I was traveling the whole US last year, going to all these magical places, mostly with €0 or dollars in my account. But I always had what was necessary. And I saw the most amazing places. Other people would pay 20,000, 30,000 euros for a trip like that.
Yeah.
But there is no difference between having zero or having billions on the account, because you always have what's necessary. The rest is just illusion.
God is abundance. Yeah.
Yes. And you start experiencing it when you let go of your attachments. When you let go of the idea, I have to do this on my own, because that's the unhealthy trying to be independent.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's independence doesn't mean I have to try hard. Independence just means I'm able to have my own balance. I can do everything without needing another person to fulfill my energetic need. Because that's where in relationships is also where the longing comes from. We're longing for that other person because they have the matching energy that we don't want to create for ourselves. And the longing is gone after that. Sexuality completely changes when you're no longer operating on duality principles, on that polarity. The friction is gone. Agustin and I, we have a completely different dynamic that has nothing to do with that old way of longing, and also sexuality that was really like almost eating each other up. That's all gone. It's very different. It's not even, you cannot describe it because it's such a different quality. It's just yeah, you don't need it anymore. There's no neediness. It just evolves from out the now moment, and then it's amplifying, and it's actually a very creative energy.
So it's less kind of dense and more a lighter love, kind of.
Lighter, playful.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's really, it's not like that short orgasm that you hunt in the old way. It's like you feel orgasmic from the beginning, and it's a very different form of feeling fulfilled, because it's already in you. The other person is just amplifying that feeling that's already there.
Yeah.
And you do that for each other. It has nothing to do with, I need this now. There's never any need.
Yeah.
So it's all very free. And the funny part is we're basically together 24/7. So we don't need each other.
Huh.
We just like to hang out, and we just like to co-create things.
Yeah.
But if he needs to go tomorrow and he's going to be gone forever, then that's okay too. It's really hard to understand, and I didn't understand these things when I started reading about them, when I went through my process, because it really comes with the experience.
That is freedom.
That is freedom. Yeah, that is freedom.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's a feeling oh my God, yeah. Everybody wants that feeling, but nobody wants to go through the process to get there. And we cannot skip that process, no matter how hard we try.
Yes, because a lot of religions teach how as long as you're in a physical body, you'll never be free, and you'll never be happy because you're in a physical body and in the material world and stuff like that. Yeah. But
not my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that it's more of a belief system than anything else. It's not absolutely true. Because for me, I've always been sort of bypassing by saying, okay, this is the material world. I'm in a physical body, therefore I'm on a prison planet, and I'm not free. Yeah. I won't be free until I pass away or pass on to the next world. So I'm just here on probation because I've done something really bad to piss God off. Yeah. And then that whole story, goes in your head. And then you walk into a supermarket like I did last night, and then this song plays like a mantra: heaven is a place on earth, heaven is a place on earth, to actually like challenge that.
Right. Challenge the excuse.
Yeah, and to realize actually, yes, you are by nature pure spirit, but you can be that free spirit whilst in this physicality. It is possible. Yeah. And anyone who says otherwise, that's a kind of control mechanism. It's a kind of,
well, it's a narrative that tries to pull you back into a belief system and into an attachment to a certain belief system, or a story that you made up for yourself that helped you cope with things.
Exactly. Coping mechanism.
And that's again goes back to that: be radical honest with yourself. Keep being radically honest with yourself. Where am I attaching? There's so many stories, so many narratives.
Yes.
In the old world, in the spiritual world, be it conspiracy, be it the galactics that are going to come to save us, there's so many stories I can hook into and become codependent again.
Yeah.
Because then I need the story to survive. Who would I be without the story?
Yeah.
And that's exactly the liberation: to be free of all stories, free of all narratives. That doesn't mean I can't play the narrative.
Exactly.
But I'm not attached to it anymore.
Yeah.
I can go back into the old world. I can do things there, but nothing gets me anymore. Yeah, it's just this, I am me, and I'm going to play with this. I'm also playing with the new things. But even there, I'm not attached. It's just a story. And stories is what makes life interesting. It'd be awfully boring without any stories.
Yeah.
But we need to learn to detach from the story. We need to learn to be that kid again that plays, oh, today we're going to play this story. We're going to be doctor and patient. Oh, now we're going to be the, Neanderthalers, and we're going to be hiding in the forest. They naturally do what we have lost, to step into a role and to let it go again.
Yes.
And then play a different game, play a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it becomes fun if I'm no longer attached to it and make it a dogma and try to convince everyone else that that's the right story.
Yes.
Yeah, that's freedom. And that's actually what's meant by liberating your mind, is just detach from the stories. Not take everything so seriously anymore, but see it for what it is. It's a story.
It's a story.
I can close the book anytime if I want to.
Exactly.
And that's when simplicity comes back into your life.
Yeah.
And it's a process. I'm not saying it's easy just because it's simple. It's actually really hard.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for, to assist each other with that. Doesn't mean I can walk it for anyone, but I can share what I know. And you can share what you know. And the more we start sharing, we create more of that safe space.
Beautiful. Well, on that beautiful, resounding, transcendental note, I think we can say to be continued as ever. And
Yeah.
And thank you.
Always happy to.
I'll
Thank you.
Leave that to resonate. So yes, anything else you wish to?
No, I think we ran out of time to talk about the illusion of time. We're going to do that next time.
Yes. What's interesting is what's been playing in my head a lot is that song "Time" by Hans Zimmer from the film Inception. And well, how it's an illusion. And that film is really has come back online for me big time, because it's all about how you are basically the creator of this universe.
Of your own dreams, yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Well, Christopher Nolan in general is just an amazing source of movies to watch. I don't know if you watched Tenet yet.
Not yet, no.
Tenet is another masterpiece. Oh my God. You're going to need to watch that at least 10 times to integrate all the codes that are in there. So it's an amazing masterpiece. And the first 2 times you don't understand anything. Yeah.
Yes, I rewatched the Dark Knight trilogy, and my favorite is Batman Begins, the first one.
Yeah.
Because that's all about the initiation and facing your fears, like really going deep into your fears. A bit like what Yoda does in Empire Strikes Back, when he says you need to face Vader, and realize actually he's you. He's you.
Yeah, exactly.
And carrying on from what you said before about what do you fear losing, and then Yoda says, the fear of loss is the path to the dark side, but you have to come to peace with that and kind of balance that out. I mean, in these stories, like Batman and Star Wars and the Matrix, they are
So much wisdom in there.
So much wisdom. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And these
Well, maybe Agustin and you should do a kind of cineforum thing sometime and talk about those movies, because he's such an enthusiast too, and
absolutely
he loves doing that. So
that would be so
that's
much
where you get
fun.
him really excited.
Yeah, I mean, these are like mirrors of our subconscious and what's
Yeah, absolutely.
what's going
It's
on.
it's basically what's in our consciousness right now.
Completely.
Yeah.
And a recent movie that came out is called Free Guy, which is a kind of comedy, but it's a bit like the Truman Show, but the guy realizes he's an NPC or a non-player character in the middle of this video.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one yet. It's on our list. So don't spoil me too much, but definitely one that we want to watch.
I haven't seen it yet, but and eventually he realizes, oh, I'm in this video game, and he decides to become sovereign and create his own reality.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm really curious about that one.
You know, all these films that are coming out are not just dropping clues; they're just like showing you, you know, what's going on. Anyway, that's for another day to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was really beautiful to
absolutely
to have that exchange again.
Yeah. Well, I shall complete this recording for our viewers, and then we can chat a few more minutes after.
All right.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much.
And I'll put all of Vera's links down below, books, website, etc. As always, be free, have fun, and have faith.
Absolutely.
May the force be with you all.
May the force be with you.
All right, much love. Take care.